lost some of those intuitive, I mean, you know, what if you feel like eating chocolate all the time? Then you'd be in trouble.
Absolutely. And so as we get, I guess the word would be socialized, you know, you get these young ones and we socialize them, and as we start to, people who diet, you lose that connection with your body.
Those hunger cues, I guess you call them.
Those hunger cues, you override them and say, oh no, I'm on a diet, I'm hungry, but I'm going to wait until, you know, I'm going to skip breakfast because I'm trying to lose those extra pounds. And so what happens is we get disconnected and we don't trust those hunger cues. And so what intuitive eating is taking people back to that and reteaching them how to listen to their body.
And reconnect to the proper cues, in other words, not those, the wrong ones, I guess.
Because it's not about what do I want. It's not a free-for-all in terms of teaching people, oh, I want chocolate for breakfast. It's really about what feels good in my body. And eating chocolate for breakfast, although it might taste really good, it isn't going to make me feel that great an hour later and in 2 hours later.
So how do you know what you're allowed to eat, what you should eat? I mean, how do you connect to that?
The first place to start is really getting people, first of all, in touch with when are they hungry and when are they full. And so often adults have a really good sense of when they're super hungry because they know they get shaky, they get irritable, they'll take down a small child for chocolate. And on the other extreme, we know what we feel like after Christmas dinner. And we're stuffed and we're uncomfortable and we just want to lay down and have a sleep. And so, but those cues in between, most adults are really it's just not very fine-tuned. They can't identify. And so it's teaching people, so what does slightly hungry feel like? And in fact, it's comfortable is I could have 3 or 4 bites. And that's the best time to stop eating because in 20 minutes I'm actually going to feel full.
So some of it's probably just listening to your body a little bit and reading the proper cues you're getting, right? Because your body's already telling you what you should eat and what you shouldn't eat and what feels good.
Absolutely. And the other thing about it is that learning to trust those hunger cues, right? To say, yeah, actually I am hungry and I ate 2 hours ago, but I'm hungry again. And that isn't necessarily a bad thing. Maybe it's an indication that what I ate 2 hours ago didn't hold me. So that's the other part of intuitive eating is really noticing what foods make me feel good, what holds me for 3-4 hours versus what makes me starving again in 20 minutes.
Well, many diets have things where they say you can't eat this, you can't eat that. So what about intuitive eating? Should we be mindful of that as well when you do that?
One of the parts of intuitive eating is about teaching people that there are no good foods, there are no bad foods, there's no evil foods that you should avoid. And it's based on a premise called habituation. So if I told you you could eat anything you wanted except for chocolate.
I would love you then.
Yeah. And so
except for chocolate. Wait a minute.
For chocolate.
Okay, missed that part.
And then usually most people would say, "Oh my gosh, I just really want chocolate." And so with habituation, what it does is it allows you to reintroduce those foods now in a structured way to begin with. Like I said, it's not a free for all, but teaching people to reintroduce all foods in a structured way and having them learn that once I've had those foods and I have the permission to have those foods, actually they're not as good as I thought.
Yeah. Everything in moderation is really, in some ways, is probably a good way to live this.
It is, but I think with moderation, you've got to relearn that piece too. Because when people say moderation for me might be 5 glasses of wine on a Friday night, and moderation for you might be something different.
Yeah, you're probably right. Now, do we know this works? I mean, have someone studied this? Where is it coming from?
It was first looked at in about 2008, and since then there have been numerous studies on it. And what they've shown are some really interesting things. People who are intuitive eaters, and there are people who naturally are. When you look at some adults, they push away from food, they take 2 bites and go, "Now, that wasn't really that good, it's not worth it." But what the research is showing is that people who are intuitive eaters actually have an easier time managing their weight than people that are dieters. And actually people who diet it's shown that they have higher body mass indexes or higher weight, basically. Yeah,
a lot of yo-yoing going on there, right? Yeah. Now, I've lost weight on diets. I mean, and I'm pretty much have maintained myself. So maybe I'm just an intuitive eater and I didn't know.
Probably that's true, because most people who diet tend to regain that weight and generally a little bit more. So if you haven't, good on you.
All right, well, we'll follow our intuition. Robin, thanks very much for coming in this morning.
My pleasure.
Robin Anderson is a registered dietitian with the Edmonton Southside Primary Care Network, and intuitive eating is the way to go, she says. Coming up to 4 minutes